Erin Micklow, and I'm here with the man, Brad Logan. How are you?
I'm great, Erin. How are you?
Good. So, you're a punk rock legend. You have been in so many bands, F-, Leftover Crack, your newest project, Rats in the Wall. That is such a cool band name. How did you come up with that? Did one of you actually have rats in your wall, or?
Not that I know of, but the name of that band was actually taken from a short story by H.P. Lovecraft, the horror writer. And I just, other than it being a great story, it just sounded like it'd be a cool band name. And so Eva and I were both kicking around names, and we thought that would fit well. We're both fans of the man.
So you and Donnie are in Leftover Crack together, but how did you link up with Eva and Mike to form this band, Rats in the Wall?
Oh, let's see. Mike, I met in front of a 7-Eleven. I was walking in a 7-Eleven, and he was walking in 7-Eleven, and we just knew each other from the local band scene. And I went, "Oh, hey, Mike, he's a drummer," and I asked him if he wanted to play bass because we couldn't find a bass player, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll play bass." And so that's how we got Mike. And then Eva was a cashier at this grocery store that I would go into, and I would see her every time I would go in the grocery store, and she would always have like these like. Eva's a very, slight build, she's not like burly, but she would always have these t-shirts of like the craziest, most hardcore bands on at the checkout counter, and I would go through and I would look at her shirt and I'd be like, oh wow, that band is fucking insane.
Did she have like the little checkout girl vest over the shirt?
No. And she was all tattooed out, but I would never say anything to her because I usually don't talk to cashiers. I don't talk to people. I like to get my stuff and fucking book.
Yeah.
And then finally after 5 or 6 times, I'm like, hey lady, what's up with that shirt, man? You like that band? And she's all, hell yeah, I like this band. Matter of fact, we got to talking, and she told me she used to sing for a band, and I didn't believe her. And then I went and I YouTubed the band, and I was like, holy shit, man. She was in this band, Gather, and they were just from hell. They were such a good band. And from then on out, I tried to talk her into starting a band with me, because I didn't want to sing. I wanted to be just the guitar player and have a band with a singer. And she was like, "Oh no! I don't sing anymore. I'm done doing band stuff." And I just wore her down.
I'm like, honey, the band. I'm living whenever I can. I'm always free. I just gotta fucking cry. I was talking to a son. All the people on the person. But the news is fire in our son.
So in 2013, you guys released some cassettes, and you only did 100 pressings of them. What inspired you to do an old school release like that in today's digital age?
Well, economically, it was a good decision because they were very inexpensive to make and portable, easy to carry around, and there are people that like that format, of cassettes. And really, I don't even think I cared if we sold any or if anybody bought them or if anybody ever listened to them. We just wanted to have something to bring to shows. So that was the cheapest format that we could think of. So that's what we did. And we actually sold them all or gave them away.
I saw one of your fans on Facebook. Someone had commented, "Oh, do you ship to the UK?" And another fan commented back, "Yes, they do." And he took a picture of his cassette, and I thought it looked really cool because it looked like you guys even hand wrote on them. Did you?
Oh yeah. I think that people, especially in over in mainland Europe and in the UK, still listen to cassettes. And that's like. Still a format that has not played out there, and that's really cool.
You've been a roadie for hundreds of bands, including Rancid.
I wouldn't say hundreds.
Well,
thousands.
Well,
a few here and there, yeah.
Bands like Rancid, NoFX, Flogging Molly, Alkaline Trio. What are some of your most memorable moments from touring? What's some of the craziest things that have ever happened to you when you were on the road?
That's an interesting question because, I don't, I don't know what's crazy. That's a relative term, I mean, the people that I know and situations I've been in are like, everything's normal to me. So I don't know. I just really, it wasn't like a career I decided I wanted to do, I just knew how to tune guitars and I wasn't, a professional roadie or anything. I knew how to tune guitars and I worked at clubs. And then one day, I'd worked with, the Rancid crew a few times, and one of their guitar tech guys asked me if I wanted to go on tour with them.
That's
and
cool.
I said, yeah, man, that sounds like fun. I really like the band, and that's what I did. And when you're in that loop of I mean, things are quite different nowadays. Everything's like, I used a little guitar tuner pedal, and I wasn't very sophisticated, but you just get passed around from band to band. It's like, oh yeah, so and so needs a guitar tech. Do you want to do that? And I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds like fun. So I just worked with bands that I either knew or were in the circle of bands that I would run around with, and I liked traveling and I like music and I like helping people out. So to me, it wasn't even a job, it was just something that I would be doing anyways, and I love traveling.
What's the most fun band you ever toured with? Like,
well, again, that's a relative question too.
well, fun to you, or
I mean, they were all, I never worked with anybody that in like, this is a job sort of capacity, I mean, I always had at least an interest in the band or had known some of the members and I mean, I really liked working with Rancid. Those guys were a lot of fun. NoFX was a lot of fun. Everybody was. I mean, I don't know. That's not even a fair question.
You also own a record label called Black Noise Recordings with your wife. With everything that you have going on, you've got so much on your plate. What inspired you to start that too?
Oh, just total insanity inspired me to do that. Yeah, I just thought that it would be a great idea to have more things on my plate. What it really started as was just a vehicle for me to put out new music by bands that I loved, that nobody else wanted to put out at the time, or and for my own stuff, more so nowadays. It's become a vehicle for me to put out my own music. I mean, I think that the way that things are shaking out with the record industry or whatever, it's like anybody can be their own label nowadays, and you really don't have to have that unless you want to have that. Somebody to, a label's like somebody to organize things for you and distribute it for you, and if you're a working band, I mean, that can be like, too much for a band to do. It's believe it or not, being in a band is hard fucking work, and these little things add up. So it was cool to be able to help people out and get stuff out for them. And that's why I started it, for the love of the music.
Yeah.
Honestly, because, there isn't a whole lot of, maybe there is a whole lot of money to be made. I didn't make a whole lot of money. And I don't make a whole lot of money. I just, I like doing it. I like the process. I like creating, doing layouts and, doing the artwork. And
It's something like you get to pay a lot of attention to detail. And
yeah, I like having the finished product, which is why I like making my own records too. It's like, I really came to enjoy that process of writing something, recording it, putting it in a fucking package and like getting it out there to somebody, who might enjoy it, I mean, I don't even care about getting it out there to somebody. To me, when it's the finished thing, it's like, man, that's as good as it gets, Then if somebody else likes it, that's like secondary. It's like, I've made this like project, and put it all together, and I got this music on here that I really like. But anyways, all the bands that I put out on Black Noise, I really dug, personally. So it was a labor of love for me,
For sure.
And a lot of that stuff's available digitally now, and people don't really buy CDs anymore, and that's cool. I get that. I don't buy CDs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the computers nowadays don't even have CD drives anymore, so it makes it really hard when you go to a show and you want to support a band and maybe they haven't gotten on the digital wagon yet. And it's just like, fuck, how do I get this onto my music player?
People still like having a physical thing in their hand, vinyl
for sure.
or a booklet, or and it's cool because I think that's like inspired people to get really creative, with the stuff that they bring to shows to sell. And you look at like the merch table like here tonight and how the bands that are playing, and it's like, oh wow, this is like really cool. It comes with a booklet, or things that a lot of like their heart was put into, and I dig that kind of shit.
You have a new LP coming out with Rats in the Wall, and this one's coming out on Program Sound and Indecision Records.
Correct.
What made you decide not to put it out on Black Noise?
Well, they just approached us. Program Skate and Sound is a skateboard shop in Fullerton that also does shows. It's an all ages. It's like probably the best all ages venue in Orange County right now, and we play there all the time. It's like we call them up and go, hey, can we play on this night with these bands? And I'm like, sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and they decided to start a record label. And Indecision, Dave Mandel, Dave I've known for a long time, since F- days, and he's put out a lot of, cool records. So they both wanted to do it, and they decided to just combine forces, and do it together as a split release, which is great. But that's how easy we are. All you have to do is ask. And we're like, we would love to. We would be honored to do that.
Yeah. And then you can focus on other things, and we can
focus on other things.
Let them do the work.
Yeah. So, and I mean, they're like, those guys are driven, both of them. So, they're kicking ass, and I'm really excited about it. It's going to be on a, vinyl 7-inch format, cassette and CD, and the cover photos were shot by Rob Wallace, who's a photographer guy from the scene, who's a friend of ours, and he's an awesome guy too. So we're working with all these people that we love as people already, you know what I mean? So it's exciting for us.
Do you guys have a date yet for the release, or are they still working on that?
Last I heard, it was going to be around Christmas time.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're probably going to do a record release show at Program in early January.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So last question I have to ask. Brad Logan is one of my favorite Rancid songs. What is the story behind that song? That's pretty cool that you have a song named after you.
Never heard of the guy.
Shut up.
That you would have to ask Tim. You would have to ask Tim the story behind it. Him and I spent a lot of time together, hanging out and shooting the shit.
You never asked him? I mean, it's your song.
I know what it's about.
Oh, okay. You're not allowed to say.
No, you have to do the work. But it's anybody that's familiar with that guy's songs knows that he writes about people he knows and about things that he knows and things that have happened, and one day he goes, hey, I wrote a song about you, is that cool? And I was like, what do you mean, is that cool? Yeah, that's great.
I think it's really funny that he didn't even disguise the name. It was just like,
Yeah, you know, and to
That's
the point,
pretty awesome and
yeah,
flattering.
and to the point, and I don't, you know, when he told me about it, we were on tour, and he would play it at sound check, and it was nothing that I ever thought would be recorded, you know, and then one day he went, oh, by the way, you know, we recorded it, and it's going to go on the South Park soundtrack. Are you okay with that? And I was like,
So how did that happen?
you don't
That
have
it
to
got
ask
on
me. Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And it was nice that he asked me, but he didn't have to do that.
Yeah, and so, but how did it happen that it got on South Park? Just
I don't know. I guess that South Park wanted a song from him, and that was the one they chose to give him. And I thought it was cool because Isaac Hayes is also singing on it in the South Park. Like, I think he does like the chorus. You know, the chef who was Isaac Hayes, if you know who Isaac Hayes is, and he was the fucking man. And so he's singing on it too, and I'm like, holy shit. I'm listening to it. I'm like, this is a song written by one of my favorite songwriters that fucking Isaac Hayes is also singing backups on. This is like the greatest shit, you know? So
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And you know, there are two versions. There's the version that is on South Park that Lars is singing, and there's also a version that Tim sang.
I have the demo of
Do you
that
have the
one,
demo
and
of
that
that
was
one?
actually the first one I ever heard. And on the way here today, I wanted to listen to it again, and
Yeah.
I have both on my iPhone. And first came up the one with Lars, and I wasn't familiar with that one because I never really heard the finished one. I just have the demo where there's like a female singing with it, and he's like
they're
scatting along.
They're both great. You know?
I like them both.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so different.
Yeah.
But it's really funny to hear the demo and then to hear the finished product.
Yeah.
So
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot, Erin. Thanks for asking.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Brad Logan, and you're watching Blast Rockers TV.
Do you believe we can depend on each other after viewing all the family to one another? We're highly content. We're very complacent. We're longing for more. But the goodness